Breaking news, President Biden has issued a pardon for his son, Hunter Biden.
But you know what? Get fine. It's good. It's right. It's his right. He's an 82-year-old man. Republicans get away with this all the time.
This one's going to be a real brain stretcher for you liberals. They tried to impeach Donald Trump for investigating all of the crimes. Wait for it, that Hunter Biden was just pardoned from.
In full view of the world and the American people, Donald Trump has violated his oath of office, betrayed this nation, and committed impeachable acts.
For the first time, Democratic U.S. presidential contender Joe Biden calling for the impeachment of Donald Trump. So pathetic to see sleepy Joe Biden, who with his son Hunter, and to the detriment of the American taxpayer, has ripped off at least 2 countries for millions of dollars, calling for my impeachment. And I did nothing wrong.
To understand how we got here, you have to understand what happened in Ukraine between 2014 and 2016. Hunter Biden, former Vice President Biden's son, joined the board of a Ukrainian natural gas company called Burisma Holdings in 2014. Burisma's owner had come under scrutiny by Ukrainian prosecutors for abuse of power and unlawful enrichment. Then Vice President Biden arrived in December of 2015.
I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't.
Biden pressured Ukraine to fire their top prosecutor, a guy named Viktor Shokin, because he was pursuing
an alleged bribery scheme from which Hunter Biden and his father, then Vice President Joe Biden, may have each earned $5 million in exchange for shielding a Ukrainian energy company from prosecution.
I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Shokin was fired in March. Yuri Latinsko replaced him in May 2016. Just before the Ukrainian election, Latinsko made allegations about what the Bidens did in Ukraine.
Look at Joe Biden. He calls them and says, don't you dare prosecute if you don't fire this prosecutor. The prosecutor was after his son. And he said, if you fire the prosecutor, you'll be okay. Yeah. And if you don't fire the prosecutor, we're not giving you $2 billion in loan guarantees or whatever he was supposed to give.
It is in this context that the new president of Ukraine would speak to Donald Trump over the phone on July 25th.
No one knows exactly what was said on the call, because the White House only agreed to release non-verbatim notes of the conversation.
After the July 25th conversation between the Ukraine president and the president of the United States, and the White House lawyers ordered other staff to move the transcript from its typical repository to a more secure location.
But according to Democrats, Trump threatened to withhold about $400 million of military aid from Ukraine unless there was an investigation into Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son.
July 18th, the Office of Management and Budget official informed the departments and agencies that the president earlier that month had issued instructions to suspend all U.S. security assistance to Ukraine. Neither OMB nor the NSC staff knew why this instruction had been issued.
At the time, Trump had indeed blocked military aid from going to Ukraine. This is the oft-discussed quid pro quo. Democrats claim that if Ukraine agreed to investigate Hunter Biden, then Trump would let funds flow to Ukraine. And if they didn't, well, he wouldn't.
The president pressured Mr. Zelensky to, and then there's a few bullet points. The first one says, initiate or continue an investigation into the activities of former Vice President Joseph Biden and his son Hunter Biden.
The call basically becomes gossip for the advisors who heard it firsthand. One of those people who heard it decided to escalate the issue, the now infamous whistleblower. On August 12th, refers the case to the Intelligence Inspector General, who forwards it on to the Director of National Intelligence.
Upon reviewing the complaint, we were immediately struck by the fact that many of the allegations of the complaint are based on a conversation between the president and another foreign leader.
However, the acting Director of National Intelligence, Joseph Maguire, refused to pass it on to Congress. The Intelligence Inspector General, Michael Atkinson, so goes directly to Adam Schiff, the leader of the House Intelligence Committee. In early September, 3 standing committees in the House of Representatives start to investigate Trump, And Schiff, as the head of one of those committees, demands that Maguire turns over the original complaint. Maguire says no thanks and refuses to testify.
In May, the fact-checker found no evidence to support this claim. Letensko eventually walked back his suggestion that the Bidens had acted improperly, and the administration notified Congress of their intent to release military aid to Ukraine.
On the 24th of September, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, initiates the official impeachment inquiry.
He should be impeached.
On the same day, under serious political pressure, the White House releases non-verbatim notes from the phone call. Despite the impression this document might initially give, it doesn't tell us exactly what was said, just the gist of the conversation.
And that's part of a whistleblower complaint. In a summary of the July 25th call, Trump says to the Ukrainian president, "I would like you to do us a favor," before asking Ukraine's leader to look into Trump's political rival, Joe Biden, and Biden's son. The call came after the U.S. froze $400 million in aid.
6 standing committees were tasked with carrying out the private inquiry after the
Democrat-controlled House
voted along party lines in favour of doing so. It became public on October 31st, 232 votes to 196. During the inquiry, the White House refused to cooperate. They didn't release any files and refused to let any witnesses testify.
The White House officially refused to cooperate with the impeachment inquiry.
Regardless of this, a lot of people did testify, but Bill Taylor, the Trump administration's top diplomat to Ukraine, and Gordon Sondland, the US ambassador to the EU, explicitly said that Trump considered military aid contingent on the Ukrainian investigation into the Bidens. Well, according to White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, it was because of the corruption in the country, i.e. they didn't want to give money to a corrupt state, whether or not other countries were participating in support of Ukraine. And the Judiciary Committee concluded that there were 2 articles of impeachment: obstruction of Congress for hindering the investigation, and abuse of power for using military aid as personal political leverage against the Bidens. The Judiciary Committee has to vote in favour of those motions. There are 23 Democrats and 17 Republicans in the committee. It shouldn't surprise you to hear that it voted 23 to 17 in favour of each.
Interference in the 2020 election.
Democrats have a moral perch from which they can judge without shame, hypocrisy, or nuance.
Breaking news.
An FBI document outlining allegations of corruption involving the Biden family has cast new light on the 2019 events leading up to the first impeachment of former President Donald Trump. The form laid out the details of an alleged bribery scheme from which Hunter Biden and his father, then Vice President Joe Biden, may have each earned $5 million. The document was compiled by the FBI from the recollections of a trusted informant who had worked previously with the Bureau on other criminal cases. The newly published FBI form lends new credibility to Trump's request, and it raises serious questions about Joe Biden's interest in getting Shokin removed from office.
Mother doesn't want to spend the rest of his life visiting his son in prison.
CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, just went on the Joe Rogan podcast, and while speaking to Rogan, he admitted that Facebook censored the New York Post's accurate reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop, which of course we all knew, but that Facebook did that because the FBI intervened and told Facebook that that laptop was Russian disinformation. Here's a clip.
There was a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story, the New York Post.
Yeah, we have that too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path than Twitter. Basically the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team.
So the FBI censored the story. Now, keep in mind, the FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop when they said that. They've had it since 2019. They interfered in the last presidential election. If ever there was an attack on democracy, it's the country's largest law enforcement agency weighing in a dishonest way 3 weeks before the voting begins. That is election interference. That is an attack on democracy by our most powerful domestic government agency.
I'm sure the pardon is a narrowly written, precisely drawn farewell note of compassion for a loved one.
The pardon sweeping, covering offenses that Hunter Biden, quote, has committed or may have committed or taken part in over the past 11 years.
We were so close.
He should be impeached.
11 years is a very specific and not rounded amount of time. It needs to be 11.
Hunter Biden, former Vice President Biden's son, joined the board of a Ukrainian natural gas company called Burisma Holdings in 2014. Biden pressured Ukraine to fire their top prosecutor.
I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
It needs to be 11.
Interference in the 2020 election.
Republicans get away with this all the time.
He should be impeached.